Chapter 2, Contextualizing Rashi in Medieval Provence. Contextual backdrop, Provence as a crossroads of medieval learning. In this chapter, we situate Rashi within the broader milieu of medieval Provence, a region that, as part of southern France, operated at the intersection of Mediterranean commerce, urban life, and diverse religious communities. Provence in the High Middle Ages hosted vibrant Jewish communities organized around synagogues, study houses, and local networks that connected urban centers with smaller towns and rural settlements. This regional texture provided a distinctive environment for the reception and transmission of scriptural interpretation, including Rashi's concise glosses and linguistic commentary. The Provençal setting contributed to a culture of reading that valued clarity, linguistic precision, and accessible interpretation, qualities that later scholars would attribute to Rashi's enduring influence across European exegesis, Britannica, ND, World History Encyclopedia, 2020. The historical arc of Provence, its cities, markets, and intellectual exchanges, offers a compelling lens through which to trace how a single exegete's methodologies circulated, adapted, and persisted beyond the immediate geography of his life. Jewish Encyclopedia, 1901. These contextual considerations anchor the study of Rashi in a dynamic, place-bound scholarly ecosystem and foreground the ways in which local conditions shape interpretive practice. As this chapter unfolds, the central claim is not that Provence reshaped Rashi's fundamental methods, but that the Provençal milieu provided a particular set of conditions, material, social, and textual, that influenced how interpreters encountered the biblical text, how communities judged authority, and how marginal glosses and commentaries circulated through manuscript networks. In this sense, Provence becomes a living laboratory for understanding how regional culture interacts with broader exegetical aims, to render the plain sense of the text while situating reading within a network of linguistic analysis, communal memory, and interpretive dialogue. The Provençal milieu of scholarship and interpretive practice. The Provençal scholarly world was characterized by a constellation of rabbis, glossators, and teachers whose work intersected linguistic inquiry, legal interpretation, and ethical reflection. In this regional ecosystem, interpretive practice often circulated through intimate teacher-student relationships, synagogue study sessions, and family-mediated transmission. The demand for clear linguistic exegesis aligned with Rashi's distinctive emphasis on the plain sense, peshat, balanced by a readiness to acknowledge meaningful layers beyond the surface text, dirash. This alignment helped explain why Rashi's approach found a receptive audience in Provence, where readers valued precise philology as a foundation for prayer, study, and communal decision-making. The Provençal environment thus contributed to the normalization of a method that privileges linguistic evidence while remaining open to interpretive mobility within a shared textual tradition. Jewish Encyclopedia, 1901. Within this milieu, the question of authority, how interpretive claims are legitimized and transmitted, acquired a regional texture. Local communities relied on a respected commentator as a dependable point of reference, yet they also engaged in ongoing debates about how to harmonize verse-by-verse philology with broader ethical and halakhic concerns. The Provençal experience of interpretation, then, embodies a tension between fidelity to the linguistic machinery of the text and responsiveness to the needs and questions of living communities. Scholars in Provence contributed to a broader medieval conversation about authority, transmission, and the evolution of interpretive norms that continue to inform modern discussions of hermeneutics. Transmission networks, manuscripts, tutors, and communal learning. One of the defining features of the Provençal setting was the rich network of manuscript culture that facilitated the diffusion of Rashi's commentary beyond its point of origin. Manuscripts served as portable schools, enabling readers in urban centers and smaller towns alike to access, study, and adjudicate the glosses that accompanied the biblical text. This circulation was not passive. Communities actively reproduced and commented upon Rashi's words, creating a living tradition in which marginal notes and textual explanations became part of ongoing study practices. Such networks also allowed for the cross-pollination of ideas between Provence and other centers of learning, reinforcing a pattern in which authority was both anchored in the text and negotiated within local scholarly ecosystems. Teachers, patrons, and institutional settings played crucial roles in shaping how instruction occurred. In Provence, as elsewhere in medieval Europe, homes, synagogues, and modest academies functioned as focal points for collaborative inquiry. Rashi's interpretive program, clarifying the plain sense while acknowledging interpretive possibility, found fertile ground in these settings where students were trained to read with attentiveness to grammar, vocabulary, and textual connections. This practical orientation toward teaching and learning helps explain the enduring appeal of Rashi's method in a region where communal life and textual study were deeply intertwined. Language, literacy, and textual culture in Provençal communities. The Provençal Jewish communities of the period exhibited a strong engagement with language as a tool for meaning-making. Knowledge of Hebrew grammar, Aramaic vocabulary, and the capacity to parse textual nuance were valued competencies in schools and homes alike. Rashi's method, rooted in careful lexical analysis, attention to syntax, and a sensitivity to idiomatic usage, resonated with readers who sought reliable pathways from language to meaning. This linguistic orientation did not merely illuminate the words on the page, it enabled communities to connect biblical texts to daily practice, liturgy, and legal reasoning. Consequently, the Provençal reception of Rashi's commentary can be understood as part of a broader philological